And we are live. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Christy Barber Live. My name is Mick, and today I have the honor of being a part of this conversation with Christy. Today's topic I'm very excited for. We're addressing some of her most frequently asked questions that she receives from business owners that are trying to scale and grow. But before we get into that, some logistics. We're live on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you name it, we're on it. So if you are tuning in today, please just drop where you're tuning in from in the comments. And uh, during this conversation, if you have any questions, please just drop them in the comments box. We love when it's interactive. So without further ado, Christy, how's it going this morning? How are you?
It's going. It's off to a good start for the week, so I'm glad for that. nothing
Yes,
nothing
yeah,
too
that's awesome.
crazy. After a long weekend, I actually did this big CrossFit event over the weekend, so that was killer. And I think I took like half the day and slept afterwards. So I'm like, all
As
right,
one naturally
I'm
does.
ready to go. Yeah, so it's good.
Good. Well, that sounds fun. Getting active. Oh, tuning in from Maryland. Oh, wow. Look at all these.
Awesome.
These are great. Okay. Well, cool. Well, with that being said, should we just jump right in? I
Let's
think
do
that
it.
so one of your most frequently asked questions we pulled from the audience. When you first start working with a business that's ready to scale, what are the most common places that you look for opportunities?
Um, it's going to depend on industry. There are a couple of things. So if you are a manufacturing, more inventory based company, it's going to be how are we managing your inventory? What do your distribution channels look like? How are we making sure that you're prepared for this? Meaning, are you housing your own inventory? Do you have a 3PL that's housing it? Or maybe you're looking at, hey, we want to scale, but we know we can't scale because our warehouse is too small and we need to find something else. Maybe it's finding a bigger warehouse, or it's going to a 3PL and they're going to start managing your inventory for you because it's cheaper than actually getting another facility. Another thing would be coming down to when you're looking at scaling of people. Do you actually need more bodies to do the job that needs to be done, or are you trying to run more lean with utilizing software or whatever that looks like? So I think it's being very prepared on what type of scaling your organization is doing. And then lastly, I would say the technology that always comes into it, which we talk about all the time, of
Yep.
the technology that you're using today, is it going to scale with you, or are you getting to the point where you're outgrowing it and you need to start looking into something else? And we talk about QuickBooks all the time, and QuickBooks can is great until a certain point, and then you outgrow it and you need to go to something else that serves that purpose. And so having the most having your technology up to speed with where you're going is going to really help.
That's awesome. That's great. Along those lines, how do you know? Let's say you're scaling and you're looking at software, but you're also looking at bringing someone else on, whether it's a fractional CFO or another role like that. How do you decide which to prioritize? Let's just stick with the manufacturing example. How would you prioritize that? How would you go about that?
So I think if you're bringing in fractional CFO, if you're to that point where, hey, you need more than just the bookkeeper that's doing your stuff and
Mhm.
your CPA, I think it comes down to what do you need them for? Is your company to that point where you need to utilize somebody that's helping you with budgets and forecasting? They're able to kind of help with getting you, maybe it's different lines of credit or loans, or if you're getting to the point where you're needing to bring in investors and they're helping on that side of the fundraising components of it. That's going to be a big part of, hey, we need to bring in a fractional CFO to this work. And then going back to your technology side of it, I always say, I think it depends. Do you need tech first or the fractional CFO
Mhm.
first? It's kind of going to depend on where you're going. I think a lot of times you might need the fractional CFO first because they're going to help you build the budget out and determine, hey, when does it make sense to have the money ready to invest in new software?
That's great. That's extremely valuable. That actually plays into a question that we just got, and I think
Yeah.
that This should be interesting. I think you're driving.
I got this.
Yes, that
Yes.
one. Yeah.
So, Jose, yeah, what percentage of my business while scaling should include AI and how should I be leveraging it? I think AI is so interesting right now of how much it's popping up and how it is useful to a certain extent, but not fully there for some industries. Specifically in the accounting
Mm,
side of things, AI is really making I don't know. It's very much trending in there and making a place for itself. Where accounting, in my opinion, was always so behind in technology
mm,
that the AI
mm,
components of it are really cool. However, I think if you like, I always stress this: garbage in is garbage out. And so, if you don't have good data, you can't leverage that AI very well within whatever system that you're utilizing, whether it's your finance, your CRM, anything that houses data. um, I'm actually going to an event this week around AI and accounting, which I'm really really excited to go to and then share with you
It's
guys
very exciting.
more of what I'm finding. But with the scaling, I think AI can be extremely helpful, especially when you're planning forecasting models. If you're able to feed it good data, it can look at things and process it very quickly. I don't know exactly
Mm,
what percentage yet. Um, a business should utilize AI in scaling. I'm still trying to learn and see what makes the most sense because you still need to have that human touch to it and make sure that you
mm,
trust what the AI is producing. But I would say wherever you can leverage AI, I would do that. Um, and I've really seen it on the retail side of helping with purchasing, looking at trends when, hey, summer's coming up and we know, hey, you're buying this way versus buying in the winter time when you're you know getting ready for Christmas and the holidays and all of that. So I think it's really cool what AI is gonna do, and I'm excited to learn more as it unfolds, specifically into the accounting industry too.
yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's this huge trending topic right now. And so I'm curious to know what your thoughts are and if there's any, softwares out there that say they have AI integrated and it is effective and you've seen it used in a way that provides value to a business, or if there's vendors that are sticking it kind of onto their software product as a package and it's not effective. And how do you decipher which one is going to provide value for you in your business? Is it during the demo, or how do you go about that?
I'm always big on the demo, like prove to me that it works and how it works.
Mm,
And I know recently, I think it was last week, QuickBooks released a whole bunch of new
yep.
AI tools. Yes, and there are a lot of small business people that are really really frustrated, and as they should be. These tools roll out and they don't necessarily show you how they work. They don't tell you,
Mm,
hey, if your data isn't good, you're not going to get good results. It's just like, hey, we have these
right.
tools, let's go. And so there's things that's why I have a love hate with QuickBooks sometimes is you release these tools and yes, they're intended for good, but you're not really telling your audience how they can be utilized well. And I think that is a big part of how that's going to be rolling out into software that small business uses. And the nice part is um, AI is affordable where it's not just these large organizations that are purchasing it. Any size business can use AI now, and I think that's huge of how it's going to play out and get used. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting with what QuickBooks is doing right now.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting, and it's just time will tell. Time will tell, and I'm interested to see what your thoughts are in about a month or two from now
Yes.
about how that's working out for people. So, but yeah, that's a great point. Garbage in, garbage out. If your data is bad, it's not going to provide you any real value. I think that's a great point.
And I would add to that
I
too,
guess.
just the oversimplification. There's so many times that AI tries to be helpful, but it's ignoring some of the logic that may go into something. And they're just saying, well, it's just this, and you're like, well, no, it's not exactly. But if you don't know how something works behind the scenes, you can't check it,
Mm,
and so it becomes truth. And so then that kind of leads to like false confidence in what is being produced.
Yeah, do you think that it's being sold as like this plug and play solution in which it's going to just provide all this value off the bat and automate all your processes and so on and so forth? But in reality, it's like you need this foundational piece in place that is clean data, and so it can actually drive results for your business. Do you feel like that's a misconception out there?
Totally. I do. And especially on the small business side, there's a lot of people that are solopreneurs, or people that are just getting started and they want to be able to stay at the forefront of their industry and make a difference. And there's all these
Mm,
AI tools and it's like, "Oh, well, I have to use this because everybody in the industry is using it." And that's true to some
mm,
extent, but making sure that it's the right fit for your company and what you're doing and you understand how it works, I think
mm.
is the right thing to do. And that's why it's always like demo it, prove to them, make them
Right.
prove to you that their solution works, and give them different scenarios that are your own day-to-day business things. Like, hey, I have this example of this and this happens. Show me how your software adds value by taking this problem that I have on a daily basis and show me that your AI tool works.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great point. You got to prove it to me. You
Yeah,
have to.
always. That's
Yeah.
always been me. I'm like, show me that this actually works because I don't want to pay for something that doesn't.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. That's a great point. Well, to jump into another question here. Um,
I like
what do
this
you
one.
wish?
Real
Oh yeah,
quick,
go
this
ahead.
one that just came through, I
Yeah,
really like this because
absolutely.
this will go into what we just kind of talked to. Avery is cutting through
Oh,
that
perfect.
noise, and I think that's going through the demo part of it and making sure that you're seeing that the software can prove that it actually works, and then that way you can get past the hype of what that actual AI solution is, and then determine, hey, is this actually the right fit for me, or no, this is not. So I think it's a good question. So that kind of just rolls all the rest of
Yeah,
that up.
absolutely. A nice bow on the AI
Yes.
topic. Who knows? We might circle back to it. But
Yes.
so what have you seen in terms of common patterns that hold small businesses back from growing smoothly? Is there any like common denominator that you see frequently, or is it various things depending on industry? How would you say that usually happens?
I think the biggest common denominator is the founder a lot of times,
Okay.
wanting to have that control of, I started this, I want to see it out, and not
Mm,
relinquishing control to do various things where their skill set is not as good, and bringing in the right team members and knowing when is the right time to hand off some of those things that the founder was actually doing and give that to somebody that's very skilled in that area so that they can go focus on
mm,
what they're best at doing. And a lot of times that's the vision casting and selling the product and all of those things. And so I've seen that get in the way, as well as just limiting beliefs as well. That tends to pop up
mm.
of, hey, I had this company come in. I just started as a side hustle. It grew, and I don't know if I can do this anymore. But it's a phenomenal product, and everybody wants it. And so it's just getting back to why you did what you did and understanding that you have what it takes. And even if you don't in some capacity, it's finding good mentors and people to step in to help you.
Yeah, that's great. A question I have for that is, what do you think is the first role that the founder should hand off? Like, what should they look to hand
Mhm.
off first?
Gosh,
Is there something specific? Does it depend? Is it
I think it depends on their skill set. Because I've
okay?
seen different founders have come from different backgrounds. And so it could be, hey, they were a
Mm,
founder and they're phenomenal with accounting because they were in the accounting and they have no problem running that for now. But sales, maybe that's not necessarily their strong suit.
mm,
They can do it, but not to the best of their ability. And so it might be bringing in a
okay.
sales guy. It could be bringing in, somebody to help on the inventory side or whatever that looks like based on the business. I think it'll really determine what the owner's skill sets are and how,
Okay.
where that gap is going to be.
Right, right. Now that makes a ton of sense. Okay. Founder dependent. That
Yes.
good way to think about it. Okay. um, Another question. that I think you may get frequently. How do you decide whether a business needs better tools or just needs to use the ones that they have better?
Yeah. This happens a lot, and it's really funny because I had a conversation with a client last week. We are going through the list of all the tools they have, and it's like, do you
Mhm.
really use all these? They have about 5 or 6 different AI tools that they're using. And
Okay.
there's a place for certain ones, and there's 3 of them
Mhm.
that kinda do the same thing, and so it got down to that question where they're like, "I don't know, I guess we need to evaluate these," and, so many times you go
Mhm.
try a tool out, and then it's $9 a month or $10 a month, and you kind of forget because the fee's so low to go
Yep.
cancel it. So I had them we just printed an inventory list of all the software solutions they were using, and then they were gonna go through and determine, "Hey, what
Mhm.
do we need? What do we not need?" And so that's something I always encourage people to do at least once a year, if not twice a
Yeah.
year, of just going through and are you still using these tools? Are you still paying for user licenses that you don't need because somebody no longer works at your organization? That's another big thing of just making sure that
Mhm.
money's not being wasted there.
Right. Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. Kind of go back through and audit those
Yeah.
different software tools you may or may not have picked up throughout the course of growing and scaling back or growing. So that makes a lot of sense. That's a great point.
And then I would say,
Um,
even with all of those too, is going in as new features get added, which is really good, and
mhm.
seeing, hey, this tool over here now has this added feature. That's actually the same as what this other solution was doing. Do I even need that one anymore? Or is this becoming my be all software that I can use because now it has everything available?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. What do you think is um, are there like telltale signs a company should move to something like a CRM or an ERP? Are there certain things that you see and you're like, okay, this is a problem and this could be fixed by X, Y, and Z
Yes.
solution? Like, what are some telltale signs around that?
Multiple spreadsheets. How many times I've had people, I'm like, "Hey, so we're running off about 50 spreadsheets." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is terrible. There's a software that could help you with this. Like, let's see."
Right.
And there's gonna always be business owners that are cost conscious. And so you want to be able to say,
Hmm.
hey, in the beginning, yeah, Excel makes sense because you're trying to save money. I mean, I did that for a long time. My CRM was an Excel
Right.
spreadsheet because it made sense, and
Hmm.
it didn't cost me anything other than what I was already paying for the subscription. And so I think there does get to that point of, hey, you may have 1,000 people on your email list and you're using an Excel spreadsheet, and
Yep.
then you're manually typing things out. And when did I last talk to this guy? I forgot to update my spreadsheet. And so getting to the point where, hey, you should probably be in a CRM because it's going to save you a lot of
Hmm.
time. And I think people forget sometimes that time is money, and you're looking through a spreadsheet, you may spend 30 minutes go doing something that the CRM, you could have clicked 2 buttons and you would have gotten the result.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a
So
great
that's
point.
always
You got
big.
to,
And the same with
yeah, the
like
spreadsheet.
ERPs too. It's the same thing. You'll see a lot of companies operating off multiple spreadsheets. They're running, inventory on them. They're running everything on there. And it gets to a point where, hey, they're on QuickBooks and they've outgrown QuickBooks because it can't keep up with where they're going and the tools that they need to be able
Hmm.
to get by. And that's when you're like, okay, well, we need to evaluate what next looks like.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's honestly a great transition to Avery's question about uh, how do you communicate scaling priorities to ensure alignment without overwhelming them with constant
Yeah.
changes?
I think that's tricky these days because so many, I mean, the era of technology is everything changes so quickly within a
Yep.
day. Sometimes, I mean, I was part of a organization. I don't know. This was probably about 12 years ago, and I think they changed software every couple of months because the founder would find a new solution. He's like, "Okay, guys, we're off this. We're on this." You're like, okay, adapting to a new solution. Let's go. And it was really funny. Like, you had to be good at changing,
Right.
really quickly and going back and forth between things. The only cool part about it was you were exposed to a lot of different things, and you could
Hmm.
determine, hey, this works well, this does not work well, and then for future clients. But yeah, he was just
Mm,
a real visionary and he loved to try new things for his business. And so that was really
mm,
interesting how he did that. But I think fortunately for him, he had built a team that was used to change and they could
mm,
cope with that really well. Ones I know organizations that are more resistant to change because they have a good system in place, or so they think in a lot of ways,
mm,
and they don't want to try anything new, and they're reliant on their Excel spreadsheets or the fact that it's job security for them, and changing to a software, there's this, oh my gosh, is my job being taken away from me? What am I going to do? And I think it's
mm,
just, I hate the word transparency, but it is being able to communicate with transparency to your organization. We're bringing in a
mm,
new software. This is why we're doing it. We want you to be involved in the process. We want you to
mm,
see the demos. We want you to see what's going on, and then give feedback to that. Do you see
mm.
yourself utilizing this solution? And I think that
Yeah.
helps with some of the overwhelmment that can come with, hey, the change of bringing in new software. And just in general, I think a lot of companies as well, there's continually changes on a daily basis, and some people cope with it better than others.
Yeah. And as you're talking about that, I'm wondering if the culture that the founder builds, especially in those early days, kind of reflects that resistance or just acceptance of that change, whether it's software or new systems, whatever it may be. And I'm wondering if you've seen different foundational pieces put in place for culture, and if like that, and like
Mhm.
who you hire and how you operate and what you do, and if there's a common denominator with that in terms of instilling like a culture that is agile and able to adapt and willing to adapt and so on and so forth. Have you seen anything like that in terms of culture?
I've seen a little bit. I've seen culture on the other side of, we've used the same system since the day the company started. Why are we doing anything else?
Yep.
Yes. And so things like that, it's interesting how, they don't want to change, and you can't change the culture because it was built a certain way. And then I think a
Mhm.
lot of these startup companies, there's so much hustle going in and out of it on a daily basis. When you're that person in there, you're going to make it or you're not going to make it. And I think that weeds out a lot of the, hey, I can't do the change part of things. Then you're probably out, because if a
Right.
company is moving that quickly. So I think it is
Mhm.
interesting. I like your thought on that of how much does the overall culture work with change. And I think it's interesting. And you even look at like family dynamics too on it. Of,
Yeah.
I like change. I think it's really fun. I have other
Mhm.
family members that are like, "Oh my gosh, it's painful. Why?" You know? And
Yeah.
it's like you all
Yeah.
came from the same family, but
Mhm.
people do things very differently.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. I just being curious about that because I like, how do you know you're instilling a good culture? How do you know that when something needs to change for the better, and it might seem frustrating up front, but on the back end it's going to pay dividends? How do you communicate that, and
Right.
have you built a culture to make it effective, and so on and so forth? So I was just, as we were talking, as
Yeah.
I was curious, but yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
no, I
It's
think
very
I think it is too, and it's like, yeah, to your point, how do you continually communicate that all throughout your company, whether that becomes like part of their vision statement or whatnot, that they're
right.
always looking for change. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd be curious. Now
Yeah.
I'm gonna like start asking everywhere I go, like, okay, so what kind of
Right.
culture do you
Right.
build on change?
That's
It's kind of
interesting. Yeah,
fun.
no, that'll be interesting. You'll have to get back to me on that. I look
I
forward
will.
to what you find.
Yes,
That honestly, Avery's asking a bunch of great questions today, so I
good.
think we have to go with. I love a good counterintuitive
I do
question.
too.
So,
Let's
yeah,
see,
what's
what's
the
the
most
most
counterintuitive lesson you've
counterintuitive?
learned?
Yeah, gosh. Common best. I think there's been a lot of times where I've seen that best practices have backfired on me, meaning,
Okay.
um, in the beginning of my consulting career, we only know best practices, and you can't actually see a company for what it is. Meaning, hey, best practices aren't going to work for us, and here's why they're not going to work for us. Because when you're kind of
Mm,
first starting out in consulting, it's like, oh gosh, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is kind of the script that I follow. I don't know what to do with this. But it's growing and listening. It's asking strategic questions along the lines of that to understand why best practices don't work. And the ones that I've seen a lot of times, it's accounting, because that's, a lot of where I live. But it could be,
mm,
hey, best practices might be to set up your chart of accounts this specific way. And this is why we do it this way. But then understanding the company has different metrics that they want to track. And just because nobody else tracks those doesn't mean that they
mm,
can't, and that
right.
you can't set something up a certain way. But back in the day, it'd been like, well, I don't know. This is the way you set it up. I can't tell you why we would even want to do it somewhere else. So
Mm,
it's doing things like that. And I think some of those backfire things can also come when you're not hearing the client, instead of
mm,
you're already going to respond with an answer without hearing. And
mm,
that is something big to get through, because once you actually hear your client and what they're really trying to say, and they may not be articulating it well, then
okay.
you can say, hey, there's a best practice for this, or no, I actually see where you want to go. This is like against the grain on how we're going to do this, but this is the route that we need to go.
Interesting. Do you feel like oftentimes the most valuable thing you find, or whatever it may be, is found in the nuance of how the business runs, or is in like some system that's nuanced, or is it typically in like that niche category of a small business? Is that
Sometimes, but I think sometimes too, it's the unique factor that the founder has brought to the company
mm,
also, and
mm,
how it's been built versus a particular niche as well. It's interesting. Like, I've met a lot of different founders with all different backgrounds and ways they look at things. And I think it's
mm,
always, that's why I love working with small business as opposed to larger companies, because I can get in the room with the founder and I can view their company through their eye and kind of listen to them of
mm,
where they want to go. And then that brings a lot more clarity versus, well, here's these four other people, and they, you got to talk to them. You have to talk to them, and they'll go talk to the owner. So it's this game of telephone, and connection gets lost. And I think sometimes
mm,
that's where things backfire too, is there's a loss in translation around things. And it's like, well, no, they actually wanted this, and it was communicated this way.
mm. Yeah, I mean that makes plain telephone never goes well. So
No, never.
especially when the
That's
stakes are
the worst thing ever.
right. Well, I think let's take one more, shall we? And then we'll wrap up. Does that sound good?
That sounds good.
Uh, yeah, let's take Avery's on it today.
Yes. So, how can you avoid overinvesting in new systems too early or clinging to outdated tools? Oh, this is something I talk about way too much, and I love talking about it. So, um, over investing happens a lot, because I think it's
Oh,
people, and we're all guilty of this. We want to chase some shiny
mm,
objects, like, oh, this is a really cool
right.
tool that I'll never use, but I would like to have it. Um, so there's things like that of investing in those newer systems to say, hey, but I might use it, or your vendor could be overselling you because you don't know
Mm,
what you don't know, and they're like, well, you would use this, and well, no, you would never use it. Again, that's why having a trusted advisor like myself, or somebody else that can help you with
mm,
this, is will save you a lot of money, later on. But make sure to avoid that. You don't buy what you don't need. Have a very clear path of what you need. Look at your requirements of what you need. How does it fit into the overall strategy of the company, of where you want to go? And that's going to determine what systems you need to. But it's also a really good practice to see, hey, maybe I don't need any new software. Maybe it's just using my current data, or current tech stack in a better way
mm,
to utilize it, um, Yeah, and there's a lot of things like that. The other thing is a lot of people, to your point, Avery, they will cling to outdated tools because they're comfortable with it, that it's predictable, they know what it costs, or they've paid it off and they don't have to pay anything for it anymore. So it's basically free, which is always
Right.
nice. We all hate moving to software and you're like, oh, okay, here we go, paying again. But with those outdated tools, a lot of times you get that, especially on the QuickBooks side of things. QuickBooks can't perform different
Mm,
reports anymore. You're getting to a point where QuickBooks really is just your P&L, and you're putting journal entries in. You're maybe using a
right.
different software for invoicing or whatnot, and it can't keep up with where you want to go. And just because it's easy to use and it's comfortable and everybody works well on it, doesn't mean it's the right tool for you to keep holding on to, and you need to start evaluating something else. And that could go for
Yeah.
anything, really. Really, it
Yeah.
could. It could be, hey, your CRM, it could be your inventory tools, any tech stack that's out there. I mean, even your project management software. It could be, hey, well, we tried this one and we all hate it, but we're just going to keep it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I love what you said about you need someone that essentially is going to ask the tough questions to these people that are trying to sell you software. That's
Yeah.
so important. And I think it shouldn't be overlooked. So I think that's a great point, actually.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that is
but,
that is huge on that part of things, is have a trusted advisor help you at all times when you're going through. And there's so many good things that come out of that too. Is, helping you negotiate better pricing, making sure that
mhm,
you're kind of in control of what you're buying and what you need.
right. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great. Well, this has been fun.
Yes,
I
thank you.
appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for all your great questions. Keep them coming in.
Mhm. All right. Well,
Till next
sounds
time.
good.
Yeah.
Till
Thank you.
next time. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks.